Welcome to Detroit's darkest times. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell. This story is going to take place in two locations in the South: Dixon, Tennessee, Burns, Tennessee. In this area, me, a friend of mine, one of my ex-girlfriends, and her aunt, and then her aunt's two daughters. Okay, it's a whole group of us actually, and what we're doing is on the weekend, we're going to this park to have a picnic and spend the day in this park. And this is the first time I've ever been to this park. But this park, anybody familiar with the movie Ernest Goes to Camp? This is where the movies took place. So as I'm going there, they're telling me this is a real nice park and stuff like that. And I've been to some pretty good parks, but nothing like this. This park was to me the nicest park I ever seen or been to. Anyways, we go over there. We show up. First thing I want to do is take some pictures at the entrance. And then, take pictures inside the place. It was just a real nice place. And I'm sure today you could pull it up online or whatever and check it out. But this place was really nice. We took a lot of pictures there. And, my ex-girlfriend had all the pictures, and stuff like that. And over time, she passed away. But maybe her daughters has got them. She's got two twin daughters and a son. And then another daughter. But anyways, they take me to this park, and this is I'm with my stepmother, her niece, which is my girlfriend at the time, and then her sister. And it's her sister's daughters going, me and my old lady and her kids, and my stepmother. So we're all, a group going, and we get there, and they tell me a lot about it before we get there. But it was really everything they said, and it was a really nice park. We spent the whole day there, just having a picnic, taking pictures, and stuff like that. And this is when I find out my stepmother's sister works for a prison. And I thought that was something else for her to be working at a prison. And on top of that, it was a man's prison, But anyway, she'd been a guard over there for many years. And if you've been watching my videos, I did one topic on a little piece of this where, over time, it's old news, but over time she had got involved with an inmate, and then she had, you know, took another security uniform to work, and then let him put it on, and then she walked out of the prison with him during shift change. But it's old news. They already, this is years back where they had got caught and everything like that. But it was something crazy she did, and I think she just did it because she got involved with the dude and, obviously fell in love with the dude because, love will make people do things that they wouldn't normally do, So anyways, hopefully she's okay today. And I know she had to go do some time for doing that. And I don't know for sure if she's out, but she may be. And hopefully God's on her side and she's doing well. But back to the story. This story happened way before that. But back to the story. This is when I actually first met her, and it was my stepmother's sister. And she was a nice lady, and stuff like that. And so, anyways, we go over there. We trying to get acquainted, and they're getting me to meet her and her daughters and stuff like that. So we had a good time. Took some pictures, walked around the park, and spent the whole day there. And then we leave and go back to our house. And at this time, my old lady is taking classes, and then she comes home one day and she tells me that her friend had just bought a school bus and she wants it painted, and she was wondering if I knew where to get it painted or take it somewhere to paint it, or could I paint it? And I said, tell her I could paint it for her, but she has to buy all the paint and stuff that I need to do it. Because you're talking a long school bus, not a short one, a long one. And anyways, what her intentions was, she was moving somewhere. I forget where it was at. But she was going to use this bus as her U-Haul and her way of living. I don't know how long she planned on living on the bus or whatever. But this was the lady's intentions. Now, whether she ever carried it out or not, I don't know. But I do know that I told her to let her know that I'll paint it, but she has to bring it to my house and we'll park it in the driveway. And I'll work on it, as when I can. It ain't no one day process, And but anyways, I said, well, what color does she want the bus? And she says she wants to paint it green. And I said, green? I thought that was an ugly color, but now that I think about it, maybe she's going to have it parked maybe in a wooded area so it kind of blend in with the woods or something. That was my only thought on it, but and then again, green could have been her favorite color. I wasn't for sure. But anyways, so I wanted to get creative with it. So I told her, I said, if she wants green, asked her, how about two colors of green? We'll do like half the bus one color, and then the upper half another color. which I did, and she was agreed to that. And then I told her, I said, does she realize how many? Because I was going to paint this bus with cans of spray paint, but I'm a good painter, so I can make it look good even though it's canned. And so, anyways, she agreed to the two colors, and then she said, "No, I don't have a clue how many cans it's going to take." So I told her just to start out with, I'm going to need plenty of newspaper, masking tape, and then I'm going to need 30 cans of spray paint. And we're going to start at the bottom, so this is going to be a dark green. So one day she comes home from school. My old lady comes home from school, and now we got the bus at the house, and I got some cinder blocks. It's a stick shift bus, so I got it in gear, and I got cinder blocks, scotching the tires, and anyways, I start working on this bus, stuff like that. And it took me about, let's see, it took me about 2 weeks. And this wasn't like 8 hours a day, you know what I mean? It was because I had to do my regular job. I just did it like on the weekends, maybe a little after work, stuff like that. So about 2 weeks I had it done. And actually it looked good because on the hood on the top of the hood I went with like a V shape, to blend it in. Then I went from halfway up the bus up with the light green, And it didn't look bad, but I really didn't like. I could have did better with some different colors, but that's what she wanted. Like I said, I don't know if that was her favorite color or she's just wanted green because she's going to be, maybe in the woods or by the woods or something like that, so it'd kind of blend in. But and like I said, I don't know if she carried this thing out as far as moving with this bus. And but as time passes, I get the bus done and everything. And as time passes, me and my lady split up. And then I end up going back to Detroit. Well, while I'm in Detroit, I'm talking to her some on the phone. And then at this time, my stepmom and my dad lives next door to her, and their kids are playing with her kids because they got small kids too. And so I'm talking to her on the phone, and she says, "Hang on," and she gets off the phone. And what had happened is the kids had got in that bus. I guess they moved the cinder blocks that I had by the tires. They got in the bus, and it's kind of on a hill a little bit. And luckily, my dad was there. I don't know if he was out in the yard or what, but he was able to. They got on the bus, and her little boy act like he was driving the bus. And then some, her daughters was in the seats of the bus, and they were just playing. But he had obviously they moved the rocks, And like I said, I'm out of town, but I was on the phone with her, and the bus starts rolling, and so she's yelling and stuff like that. And I don't know if my dad was in the yard or she just yelled and he came out because their door was always open and they usually sat at the kitchen table. So he ended up coming out and was able to get the bus and stop it, you know. But that could have been a weird incident. I don't know exactly where the bus, because it was like a downhill kind of slope. So that bus could have went a long way before it like hit a tree or something like that and actually stopped. But good thing my dad got it and he was able to stop it. And so I had to hang on to the phone until she came back to the phone because I was wondering what was going on. And then she gets back on the phone later and then she tells me what happened about the bus. And then I told her, I said, you need to have that lady come back and get the bus because, it was just, at that point it was done, but it was just sitting there. And, maybe she didn't have nowhere to park it and she was hoping she could keep it there until she got ready to leave town. But I told her, seeing the kids got on the bus and knocked it out of gear and all that, I said, you need to tell her to come and get that bus because them kids could get hurt. And luckily, nobody got hurt and everything, but that was a real dangerous incident that could have went real bad. But luckily, my dad saved the day and got the bus stopped and nobody got hurt and all that. But that was just a crazy incident that happened, over there at that time. And, but I do recall me and her separated, and before I went to Detroit, there was a time where my dad, he was actually going to school in that town also, because what he was trying to do is get a job. They had a big nursing home in this town, and he was wanting to get a job over there, but I think he had to get some kind of schooling to take care of elderly people and stuff like that. A lot of people might know what I'm talking about. I think it's CNA or something like that. But anyways, he had did his schooling, he passed the test and all that, and then he had got the job at the nursing home, and and he seemed to like it over there, working over there, and he did that for a good while, and and for some reason or another, every time that anybody at that time would like leave Detroit and come to the South or whatever, they would usually go back to Detroit, So, over time, it would just, and I think all Southern people did that a lot back in the day in Detroit, where they'd go to the South, live for a little while, go back to the North, back and forth. And a lot of people did that. So that's what had happened when I was on the phone with her. But anyways, over time, my dad had left there, and I mentioned this on one of my videos too. He leaves and he goes back to his hometown, and then while he's in his hometown, he ends up getting a DUI. And so why he's got his DUI, you know, at this time in his hometown, uh, he's pretty well known, because people that's been in their hometown since they were kids, a lot of people know you, and you can't go nowhere without running into somebody you know. And also the police department knows you too, because uh, they see you all the time too. But anyways, yeah, got a DUI, and then after that, he decided he wanted to move to Detroit. So he moves to Detroit, and then he's living. And at this time, he got a DUI, but he left and moved to Detroit before he went to court. And he's passed away now, so this is just real old history. But anyways, he moves to Detroit, and then I hook up with him because I'm in Detroit, and he's staying with my kids' grandfather, which is Chief, and Chief's old lady at the time. And then there was a lady that lived across the hall. He ended up hooking up with her, and then they started, being a couple and stuff like that. And so, he was basically running around with, which Sheep is his friend from Trumbull Avenue anyway, from years back. So, and Chief used to work for this car lot on I think it was on 12 Mile, 10 Mile, something like that, way out there. And there's a big car lot. And what they used to do is they had guys work for them, and every time they would buy used cars all around the surrounding area, they would load up in a car or van or whatever, and then they would go drop these guys were drivers that would drive the car back to the car lot. Anyways, he started working with Chief at the car lot where they just drive cars, and stuff like that. So it's kind of a gravy job, because they just cleaning cars and going to pick them up and drive them and changing oil in cars and, just all minor stuff, but, something to do. And anyways, while he's there, I go to visit him here and there, because I'm doing my own thing. And I visit him, but I don't know that at this time. I don't know he got a DUI, and he came to Detroit before he went to court and all that. I don't know that till later down the road. But anyways, he's there, and I go visit him, a couple times. Then the third time I go over to visit him, his old lady says the bounty hunter came and picked him up. And I was like, what? A bounty hunter? What's the bounty hunter come to get him for? And then obviously he told her the story, so she told me the story after he had got picked up. But anyways, she said that they had a knock on the door, and she said all he had on was t-shirt, jogging pants, some socks, and some house shoes on. And said he went to the door to see who it was, and then it was a bounty hunter, and he had a picture of him in his hand, and he says, "You need to come with me." And then so he actually took him right then and there, and he knew what it was about, but I think the only person that that he told maybe was just the lady he was with at the time, and she's the one that told me about. But I knew this lady from Detroit, you know, through other people. And but anyways, they had took him from Detroit all the way back to Tennessee because he had to go to court. And then when he got to court, you know, they I think they had gave him like, I want to say like 4 months, something like that, 90 days, something like that. But anyways, they had did that, and at this time, I'm I left Detroit again, came back to the South, and then while he's doing his time, uh, I hooked up with this chick that was from this little town in Tennessee, and me and her got serious. So we ended up having a place together and stuff like that. But she's, you know, wanting to meet my family and stuff, so I take her around to meet, you know, the people in my family. And then she's like, "What about your dad? Where's he at?" And I said, "Right now he's doing time, but he's supposed to be getting out pretty soon." And I said, "But when he gets out, I don't know exactly what his plans are, where he's going, and you know, whose house he's going to right off top or what." So she was like, "Well, he could come here until we could get him, you know, get him straightened out and stuff like that." And then I was like, "Yeah, we could do that." And I said, "But I got to get a hold of him to let him know this, you know." So what I had did, I called the place, and then I had left a phone number for him to call, and then he called, and then I told him, you know, "Hey, you know, found out when he's getting out and all that." And then once he got out, then I went to get him, and he wanted me to bring some clothes because at the time, I think he had lost some weight or something like that being in there. And so he had me get some clothes. I took it over there and then picked him up. And then I had him like a, you know, welcome home party and stuff like that. And then after that, he stayed with us for a while. And then he left and ended up going to stay with my sister, you know. But that was just some incident where it's got different areas in it. It's got you know, a little bit of Detroit and then a little bit of the South in it and stuff like that. But that was a crazy adventure, you know, for him for sure. And then you know, but I'm glad I was in a position where I was able to, you know, get him when he got out and, you know, give him a place to stay until he got straightened out and stuff like that. And so that was, you know, a good thing, you know, because, you know, so a lot of people, you know, sometimes when people go to do time and stuff like that, they're maybe in a good position when they go, but then when you go do some time, no matter how much time it is, 90 days or more, over time, things change, people change. So when you get ready to get out, you know, you got to, if you ain't got nobody actually waiting on you to get out, then you got to figure out what you're going to do, you know. But in his case, I'm sure he was wondering that, but I had got a hold of him and everything right before he got out, and had everything squared away for him, even got him a job and all that. So, you know, he was good, you know. But I just know, you know, from other people that, some people go and then when they get ready to get released, there's nobody there or nobody wants to help or, things of that nature. So, you know, it could be a bad situation sometimes when people get released because some people ain't got nowhere to go. So that being said, that's what had happened. But and back to the my old girlfriend, when me and her was together, she had liked to smoke cigarettes a lot. I mean, kind of like more than normal, you know what I mean? Like she really smoked cigarettes. And I told her that, that wasn't good, you know. But at the time I was smoking too, but not like that. And then as time passed, because like I said, this lady I was with, it was the niece of my stepmother. So, and I've always been around or in contact with my stepmother. And so over time, she tells me that she had passed away due to cancer. And her name was Rose Taff. And but that was a sad thing to hear because me and her had really good times, stuff like that. And you know, we broke up 2 or 3 times, and got back together and stuff like that. So it was really just me and her was just like two different people, basically. And she's a sweet lady. She had some good kids, and I helped take care of them kids when they little and stuff like that. But now they're all grown. And but she was just a good person. You know what I mean? Even though me and her couldn't, stay together for whatever reason it was, we were just basically two different people. But we did have a lot of good times together. And I hated that she passed away. But anyways, my stepmom, which is her aunt, told me she had passed away due to cancer. And this was, a little bit ago. And I just thought that was crazy because, she wasn't